What's up, everybody? Today we're going to be taking apart this Novation Mininova. We're going to replace the keys on it. I got this from a friend of mine, and there's this one key that's a little bit weird right here. So I was going to replace just that key. When I looked this up, it turns out the keys actually come as a set, like each octave of white keys comes as a set. So I ordered one, and then when I got it in, I realized that the color didn't quite match. I don't know if you can see this here. The new keys are a lot wider, or at least noticeably wider than these. And I'm assuming these just get discolored over time because that happens with a lot of plastic stuff. So I went ahead and just ordered the rest of them just because I didn't want to have, you know, some weird colored keys on here. So I got 3 of the sets of white keys, and then the top C key actually is its own key, so you have to order that one separate. A little bit of a pain, sure, but you know, I just decided to go all out with it. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to open this up. We're going to replace the white keys on here, and maybe make it look a little bit newer in the process. So let's get into it. Alright, so here we go. I got the Mininova. I'm ready to open it up. We're going to take some screws out of the bottom here, and then this bottom cover should pop right off. So what we're going to do, in order to rest this upside down, I'm going to use this piece of egg crate foam on the workbench. And let's get to work on doing some screws. Alright, we're going to flip this back, and then you guys will see a little bit of the insides here. So we've got a ribbon cable here, and then we've got another 2-conductor cable right here. This just goes to the LEDs that light up the mod wheel and the pitch bend wheel, just for the sake of one less thing to worry about. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect that lead. Now let's see if we can catch the screws out of here. Now on mine, this row right here has like some shiny silver screws. The rest of them are black. There we go. Alright, so we got a felt strip here. This covers up some screw heads. These screws, it looks like they attach the key bed as a whole to this bottom cover here. So we're going to pull that this felt strip. We're going to set this aside and try to put it back later. Looks like maybe it had a sticky back on it that just isn't really sticky anymore, so we'll see how well this goes back. Next, we want to take out these screws, and that's going to let us lift out this key bed from the bottom part of the shell here. So we'll start by giving them all a little bit of a couple of turns to loosen them up. Alright, the whole thing is loose now, so that's good. We'll go ahead and take these screws out the rest of the way. Now these are longer screws. They got a different head on them, so we're going to make sure we set those aside. Now these aren't going to come off yet. You'll see in a minute that we have to take the key bed completely out, and then there's more screws underneath this which hold the sets of keys onto the key bed. Alright guys, I've got the screws taken out from here. We should be able to lift this up, and we can. So great, now that I've lifted the key bed from the bottom part of the case, since I disconnected that lead here, we're just going to set that back here. Now I'm going to lay this, remember this is the top part of the synthesizer case, so we're going to set it face down. And now I'm just going to rest the key bed right here. On the underside of the key bed, Here are all the screws that we're going to remove in order to be able to lift out the actual sets of keys from the key bed. I had to go get my some smaller screwdrivers. Let's start. And I'm going to set those over here on the other side, separate. So we've got all the screws taken out, and now we should be able to carefully lift up each set of keys like that. So that's one set of keys. It's got the black keys and the white keys here, which are kind of layered together. It's two separate pieces, but they layer together to make one unit. So we need to separate the black keys from the white keys, just like that. There we go. Alright, so there's one set taken out, and then we're going to grab a new set of white keys, put them with the black ones, and then we're just going to mount it back in there, and then we're going to do the same for the other two sets. Now what's important here, I'm going to flip this back over. See, there's a little recess right here. So these have to actually go up into here. So we have to slot them in the little holes first. And then we can seat the back of the key set. Now we're going to double check and make sure that they're all in the holes. And it looks like they are. I'm going to hold the back of this and give each one a press to make sure it looks like it's seated properly and that it'll have good motion. Good, that one works. Now that I've got that one replaced, I'm going to go ahead and put the screws back in this one to hold it together. Now, because this is a new set of keys, this hole isn't really threaded, so you're going to have to force it to thread into the plastic, which means you definitely want to hold this firmly while you're driving in this screw. Alright, there's one set done. Alright, let's blast through this second one. Alright, two down, one more to go.
Believing, at least in part, that the meaning in life is to be found within the
there.
struggle
Yep.
that constitutes life.
Before we put this all back together, I think it's worth hooking it up and giving it a test. So let me go grab a speaker and I'll be right back. Alright, got my speaker, got my USB cable to power it. Alright, we're going to take this, and for now we're just going to flip it upside down like that. And when I go to try to play this, I'm going to have to hold the bottom of my key bed to put pressure on here, but we're going to test all the keys and make sure Each one triggers a note.
Description of how communist ideological uniformity was enforced in the prison camps.
Alright, so far so good.
An anonymous author is told how executions were carried out at ADAC. There are things out of the camp compound on a prisoner transport to the small house of the third section.
Alright, cool. So we're just going to test every key and make sure they all trigger a note. As long as they do, then we're good to put it all back together.
Stuffed to their arms were bound with cords behind their backs. Off to the Gorka camp cemetery on a
Cool. Alright, I'm going to turn it all off and we're going to finish putting this back together. Alright, we got the key bed reattached to the bottom part of the case. Let's not forget to reattach the power to the LEDs here before we start to close this back up. And then remember, we got this strip of foam right here that we want to put back on here. I don't know how well it's really going to stick. We can try and press it down to see if it's going to hold or anything, but I don't know if this really has any stickiness to it anymore. We're just going to try and put it back together and see if that stays in place. Fold that ribbon cable. I'm going to make sure that goes underneath the front of the keys. Now we're going to set this down. Now I can see the foam strip in there. I don't know if it's got enough friction to hold it in place or if that's going to move around. I'll just have to keep a watch on it and see. Alright, now I'm going to hold that together. We're going to flip it back over. Screw holes line up pretty good, so we're just going to go ahead and start putting this back together. And we're going to start from the middle and work our way out. Alright, cool. Just going to give all the screws one more check. Make sure they feel good.
What a dangerous thought you expressed there, little sister. They want to teach you a lesson for the rest of your life. Fire.
These can give a little bit more of a turn because they are actually machine screws and they do screw into the key bed. And that's it. That's how you replace the keys on the Novation Mininova synthesizer. If you have any questions, hit me up with a comment. Thanks for watching.